This is episode number 8 of the Expert Table Tennis Podcast. My name is Ben Larcombe, and on today's show I'm joined by the England number 1, Paul Drinkhall, who has just been playing this weekend in the Heritage Oil Cup. And you'll hear a bit more about that in the show. This is going to be a two-parter, so in today's episode we'll be focusing on Paul's junior career, how he went from kind of starting out in the game at the age of 7 or 8 to actually becoming one of the best players in the world by the time he was 18. And then in part 2 next week, we'll be looking at kind of the senior side of his game, what he did after 18 and how he's improved since then. So it's a really great interview with Paul. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. You'll notice that there's a little bit of confusion just as we start the interview. We're talking over each other. Normally I'd cut that out, but it kind of makes sense for something that he says later on. So I decided to leave it in. You'll hear that in a second. Let's get straight into the interview with Paul Drinkhall.
How are you doing?
So I'm joined.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just waiting for. There was a bit of rustling. I was waiting for.
Yeah, sorry. I'm putting a bag of peas on me foot just to ice it a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Go on.
So I'm joined today on the podcast by the new England number 1, Paul Drinkhall. Paul, hi, welcome to the show.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
So you're back in Middlesbrough at the moment, is that right?
Yes, I'm in Loftus. Yeah, I'm back at my family's house.
And you're currently icing your ankle with some peas.
Yes, with some frozen peas. I'm just trying to keep on top of it and making sure that I can come back as soon as I can.
How are you doing with the ankle? Because this is from the final of the Heritage Oil Cup, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I think, and I hope it's okay. It's swollen a little bit. It's a bit stiff, but yeah, like I say, I'm just gonna keep icing it and keeping on top of it, and then I'll go and see a physio later on in the week, and hopefully the swelling's gone down and they can have a proper look at it. But like I say, hopefully it's not anything big, and I can be back as soon as I can.
Sure. That was just kind of a trip in the middle of a point, was it?
Yeah, I just got myself into a bit of a. I went for a forehand from the backhand side, from a tricky position, and like all my weight was on my one foot, and I was out of balance, and my ankle just sort of gave away.
Well, I wish you well with that recovery, and hopefully it's nothing serious.
Yeah, thanks.
How did the tournament go? Kind of up to that point, were you playing well?
I felt I was playing. I sort of each match I was doing enough. I didn't feel I was playing well, but I won some good matches against some good players. So I think as well that proves to myself and to other people that I've improved in the match play side of the game over the last year or two. Because I think a couple of years ago, a couple of the matches I played, I possibly could have lost, but now I'm just better at coming through them games even when I'm not playing well. And I managed to play myself into the tournament, and the second set against Pishte in the final I played really well. I think I beat him 11-1, and the third set was a great start. It was a great set for both of us really. It was 10-all and then a long rally. And I went over on my ankle and was unable to continue, so it was just unfortunate. But yeah, I started to play well in the final and the semi-final. I had a strong game against Gavin Rumgay.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the video of that will be out soon, and we'll be able to kind of watch your matches in that.
Yeah.
You've certainly had a really good kind of last 18 months, haven't you? Like things have been going really well, and kind of all of that culminating in your performance at the European Games a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. I think, basically since I've come back from I had a hip operation into the summer 2013. I think I've come back from that, and I've got basically stronger each tournament I've played. Winning the Spanish Open final, Russia Open, winning Commonwealth Games gold, and then finishing 4th at the European Games. So it's been a great sort of 18 to 24 months, and hopefully I can keep pushing on and do some damage next year in Rio.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to see you doing so well, and I know that all of England are behind you and Liam now, kind of seeing you battling it out with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good thing as well. Me and Liam, we've got obviously somebody to kind of compete with and to keep moving up the rankings with, but also it helps, like you said, as a country, England and Great Britain in the Olympics to try and take out some of the top nations.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've seen the England team ranking now is up to 15, which must be kind of one of the highest it's been of recent years.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we just got to try and keep pushing up that ranking list and get as high as we can, and we can try and qualify a team for Rio.
Yeah. So if it's okay, I'd like to kind of go all the way back to kind of how Paul Drinkhall got started in table tennis and specifically what kind of you believe helped you to kind of so quickly reach the top for your age categories. Because I mean, as far as I can remember, it's always been Paul and Darius kind of up there as 1 and 2, but there must have been a time when that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
How did that come about that you went from obviously never playing at some point to very quickly you and Darius being head and shoulders above everyone else?
I think, from a young age, I was always pretty good at every sport I played. But then with table tennis, I had I'd obviously still have an older brother, but Bryn used to play as well, so I was, he was sort of my competition. And he quite quickly became one of the best in his age groups, and he's 5 years older than me. So I wasn't really competing with my age group. I was competing with him,
Okay.
which made it so that I was always better than my age group. I think.
So you were pretty young when you started, were you?
Yeah, I was 7 when I started.
Okay, so Bryn would have been about 12 at
12,
that
yes,
point.
and obviously I wasn't the best originally. I think when I was about 9 or 10, the under-12 England squad sort of spotted me, called me up, and I started getting selected for their training camps and things. And when I was 10, 11, Bradley Evans was the number one. Under 12, he was, I think, 1 year older than me in table tennis years. I'm not exactly sure, but I think he was.
Yep.
There's sort of Bradley Evans, me, Harry Shillelagh, Dan Rees. There's a couple of players, Sean Rogerson. I've probably missed a few out, but yeah, there was a few players in that era that were sort of pushing each other. But yeah, at that time, Bradley Evans was the best player, and yeah, I think after we came out the under-12s, I managed to overtake him and keep moving up, and from that point on, I was pretty much number one in every age group.
Yeah. So do you think that Bryn was kind of your big advantage compared to the other players that you were competing against?
Yeah, I think Bryn, and also at the time I practiced at Ormsby Table Tennis Club, and there was it was a great group back in the day. I was always sort of again ahead of my age group, so I was always practicing playing matches with players that were Bryn's age or even older. And playing against experienced players that had played a lot of Grand Prix, a lot of tournaments, and it was a great setup to be a part of. And everybody was really supportive of me because they all sort of at a young age saw and thought that I could be a top player. So it was great, the help I got from the coaches and but also from the players in the club. And I still speak to the majority of them now, and we keep in touch. And yeah, it was a great thing, great group to be part of.
What kind of training were you doing kind of at that young age, kind of 9, 10 years old?
To be honest, I don't really remember that much.
Okay.
I know, when I got to a certain age, I think 9 or 10, I was training sort of 4 nights a week at Ormsby, so 2 or 3 hours every night after school. And then my parents were driving me to Doncaster once or twice a week to train there with Dennis Neal as the coach. Again, me and my brother were going to that, but I know quite a lot of the time as well. They used to drive there, and I used to turn up, and I didn't want to play, so I ended up playing basketball with Dennis Neal's son in the other room. So yeah,
Okay.
I was sometimes there was a bit of a terror. They found out a way that I used to love Freddos. I still love Freddos, but so I used to get bribed a bit to train and things by them offering me Freddos.
Okay. So there was a time where you maybe weren't as interested in table tennis as other people wanted you to be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not necessarily. Maybe they didn't want me to be, but they maybe saw potential in me and thought, this guy could be good, and they wanted me to obviously to train as much as I could and as well as I could to try and get me there as quick as possible. But I was a 10-year-old lad, sort of just enjoying life. I have obviously enjoyed table tennis. I really liked it, but there were some days that I prefer to play basketball or football or another sport. And yes, but even sometimes, I mean, like you say, we'd drive all the way to Doncaster, about an hour and a half, 2 hours down the road, and then I'd decide I didn't want to play all the way there. I would think myself I wanted to play. But when we got there and just sort of got ready, I just thought, no, I'm not going to enjoy it today. I'm going to go and play basketball.
That's really interesting. I wasn't expecting that at all. I was expecting you to say kind of from a young age you'd had this like super focus and that's what kind of separated you out from all the other players, but it doesn't seem like that was the case at all.
No, I mean, like I say, when I was playing, when I was practicing, I was focused. But yeah, there was days when I didn't want to play. And yeah, I mean, I think it probably helped me in a way because I was still doing physical, still doing other sports, and I was keeping my mind fresh. So when I did come to play table tennis, I did really enjoy it and train as hard as I could.
Yeah. Okay. And then at some point you ended up going and kind of moving away from home and living at what was the English National Training Centre. Whenabouts was that?
Yeah, moved to Nottingham in year 7 at school. So I think I was 11 or 12. I think I was 11.
Okay.
So it was a young age.
That's pretty strange for England, isn't it? Like, I don't
Yeah,
think they've really done that before or since.
no. Like I say, me and Darius were the same age. We moved there together. Great opportunity. Liu Jai, the Chinese coach, was there. We knew we'd be working with him a lot. And I think, yeah, that really helped both mine and Darius's career. And also, again, it helped with me that, Bryn, my brother, was invited as well, and he was there as well. So it was, we were both kind of trying to take over English table tennis together.
Right. And what was life like for kind of when you were 12, 13 years old, living away from home? Were you doing schoolwork at certain points of the day? Like, how was the timetable?
I mean, it was very similar to when we were at home, to be honest. We'd go to school a normal day, so whatever it was, I can't remember, 8:30 till 3:00 sort of thing.
And that was just a local school?
Yeah, they just had some sort of arrangement with a local school, Dane Court it was called, in Nottingham.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'd all go to school and then we'd get back sort of 3:30 and we'd be training from 4:00 till 7:00 every evening. And then 2 nights a week, Tuesday and Wednesday, we used to have private tutoring, sort of from depending 7:30 till 8:30 or 7:30 till 9:30, to try and keep up with the work we missed when we were travelling to tournaments and things.
Okay. So life was pretty normal, I guess. Like, apart from the fact you were living at home, you weren't training throughout the day or missing school or anything like that.
No, it was just, yeah, I mean,
it was just getting all the best players in one place with the
to
best
make
coaches
sure we trained together,
make sure the
everyone
quality
in a group. And I think Friday we used to finish at midday at school, practice at sort of 1:00, 1:30, until 3 or 4, and then we used to go home for the weekend. So that was the slight difference. We did miss Friday afternoon of school, but again with the 3 or 4 hours tutoring in the evenings that we had, that made up for that.
Okay. And then at some point you kind of dropped out of school to focus just completely on table tennis. Was that just before your GCSEs?
Yes, it was. So actually, in the end, I didn't actually do any. It was because, I mean, the big problem for me was the year of the Commonwealth Games.
Yep.
And, obviously a massive tournament, massive opportunity for me. I think I was the youngest English athlete there. I was just turned 16 at the time. And we had a pre-training camp that lasted sort of 2 or 3 weeks, and then we had the Commonwealth Games that lasted 2 or 3 weeks, and it was all all around the time of the exams. So yeah, my school said it'd be too difficult for me to do it, and unfortunately I couldn't do it, and I'm pretty sure I would have done pretty well in them because, I mean, I'm not a brain box, but I'm pretty sure I could have at least passed the exams and, got them under my belt. But, maybe it's something one day I'll go back to and, become a doctor or something.
I guess fortunately it worked out all right in the end, didn't it? Because you're where you are now, so it kind of all the table tennis paid off.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, I mean, with sport, you've kind of got one chance. You can't at 17 say, oh, I'm going to stop sport now and then come back at 30 and still, I mean, I guess there is some like strange or one-off cases where that does happen, but especially in table tennis, you couldn't do that, come back and become a top player, whereas, the other way around you can. There's nothing stopping me going back and, getting GCSE A levels, and going and doing something else with my life after table tennis. So it's, it's always something you can go back to. Hopefully I won't need to. I'd like to sort of, do great things as a player and then hopefully take it on to sort of inspire everybody, possibly have a table tennis club of my own in the future or something, depending on, how that would work out and things.
Sure. And I mean, were your parents pretty cool with that decision to not do your GCSEs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, I wanted to do it. They wanted me to do it because I'd cut my subjects just to maths, English, science, and PE because I was travelling around far too much. I was missing a lot of school, so I was only planning on doing the four exams anyway.
Okay.
And like I say, every time I was in school, if I had history or something in my plan, I'd go to that lesson and just catch up on one of my other subjects. So it was, in my mind, it was working out pretty well. And, I think my parents had confidence in me passing as well. But yeah, I mean, they, from a very young age, they were driving me around and they sacrificed a lot, if not all of their lives, for quite a few years for me and my brother to travel around playing tournaments and to be the best we can. So, they sort of saw the potential in both me and my brother and were happy for us to try and sort of chase the dream.
Yeah. Well, I guess a couple of years after that, 2008 was when you really kind of saw a lot of that come together. You got the gold medal at the European Juniors and the silver medal at the Worlds.
Yeah.
Did you see kind of those 2 years as being really crucial from 2006 to 2008? Kind of all of a sudden you were one of the best junior players in the world?
Yeah, I think, again, I felt that, from sort of 15, 16, I felt at my age I was one of the best, if not the best in the world at my age. So, yeah, it was, that was a good feeling, but it was also a feeling that, I wanted to try and replicate that as a senior, and, I'm still working on that now. But yeah, it was a good time in my career. Obviously, winning, like you say, when you're young and you're sacrificing a lot. Not left all my friends, but all my friends from back home. They went to a local school, and I sort of went to one in Nottingham, and
Yeah.
so which all the table tennis players that lived in Nottingham did, and made a lot of sacrifices. But yeah, it is great when you see them paying off and you win big events like that.
And then it was around that time that people started talking about the kind of London 2012 Olympics, and it seemed like people were predicting that you were going to potentially be a medal prospect for that. Like, how did that feel at the time? I'm asking, like, did you completely believe that you could achieve that, or were you kind of going along with it? What was your thought process?
To be honest, at the time, I was, like I said, I was I think the best in the world at my age. Obviously, I got the silver medal, but yeah, I believed I was the best in the world at my age, and I didn't see a reason why I couldn't go on and medal at something like 2012 Olympics. But the problem is at that age you don't totally, and I didn't totally understand the senior game and the differences between the senior and junior game, and yeah, I think if I'd have kept improving as I was, I think my game would have been somewhere near. But mentally, it's a totally different game, and you've got to be very clever as well as a great player to sort of win matches in the senior age group. And I think over the last 2 or 3 years, that's what I've been really working on to try and make sure that I just win games and win more and more games. And I think that's showing in my results, and hopefully in, like I say, next year or the next Olympics, I can put that together and really get some good results in that major event, because I think that'll help me a lot. It'll obviously, it's my dream to do well at an Olympics, but it'll also, help table tennis and hopefully get some more recognition in Britain.
Yeah. That seemed like a pretty good place to cut the interview in half. We got the second half coming next week, talking more about what Paul did after 18, kind of the senior side of his game. I found that interview really interesting. I'm actually quite surprised. I thought that they were training more when they were at the National Centre. I didn't realise they were at school from kind of 8 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I assumed that they had sessions going on in the day as well. So that's pretty interesting and eye-opening. Learnt a lot about Paul there and kind of how he got started in the game and how quickly he was able to make a name for himself, and some of the things that we reckon helped him along the way. Yeah, the next episode coming has got loads of other great stuff in, talking about especially how Paul's done in the last 18 months, kind of ever since he had that big win at the Spanish Open back in April 2014. It seems like just he's had a huge string of successes. So we'll be talking about that in the next episode. If you're a fan of the Expert Table Tennis podcast, I'd love you to leave us a review on iTunes. Just spread the message of the show with anyone and everyone that you meet that's interested in table tennis. I'm hoping to keep doing these podcast episodes with more players like Paul in the future. So if there are any particular players that you'd like me to reach out to, do let me know. I'll try my best to get them on board. And yeah, the next episode of this interview with Paul will be out next Friday in a week's time. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in a week.